let's talk about the HK Audio Polar 10 and Polar 12. So somebody had commented on one of my videos what my thoughts were on the HK Audio Polar 10. And just right up front, I have never used it. I have never heard it. But I did think about buying it once. There was a point when, I was getting rid of my DAS audio speakers. I like the whole not made in China thing, so HK Audio is one I was looking at because they make their stuff in Germany. And I remember when they did their sneak preview of the Polar 10 coming out. And I was like, ooh, that looks interesting. And the price point is pretty good. And around that time, I was trying to read up everything. Like, I was monitoring their Facebook posts, reading all the comments, trying to get as much information as I possibly could. And then there was one comment. Now, I don't remember the exact wording of the comment, so this isn't a direct quote, but this is the gist of it. Just so everybody knows, this is just a rebranded Sound King column. Made in China, it's crap. And I was like, I must do some research. So I went to Sound King's website and found the model. I can't remember what the model is called off the top of my head right now, but if you go to Sound King's website and look in their, I think they have a column speaker section or something like that, or powered speaker array, somewhere in there, you'll see a speaker that looks exactly like the Polar 10 and the Polar 12. Identical, outside of the logo that's on it. And then it hit me because the last InfoComm I went to, well, the last in-person InfoComm that there was, I was on a mission at that InfoComm. I wanted to go around and scope out all of the column arrays. Because I know it's popular, what you see everywhere, but I was like, there's got to be other manufacturers that make these column arrays. So I had stopped by the Sound King booth because they had one there, and then so when I was looking at the Sound King website, I was like, I saw these guys at InfoComm, and I remember their column speaker. I specifically looked at it, and I'll say it just sounded like a cheap Chinese column speaker to me. Now, that was my thoughts, so I've heard the Sound King version of that column, and that is who makes it for HK Audio. Now, HK Audio did reply to that comment, and they said, well, yes, we did use Sound King's design as the shell. And then they said, we completely re-engineered the speaker to our specifications, or some wording like that. And here's what I'll say about that. Years ago, I kind of got into inflatable games in my business because it has a pretty high profit margin, but also slightly risky. Gotta have good insurance if you're gonna do that. But I ordered all my inflatable games from China. I found a manufacturer in China I like to work with, emailed them back and forth, ordered some gear from them. And one of the things I ordered was a couple of inflatable cash cubes, and they looked like 8-foot tall slot machines. And you'd get inside of it, turn another blower motor on, and money or paper, whatever you put in there, would blow around. You got to grab it out of the air. Well, when I ordered the first two, on the vents, they had mesh on the outside of the vents, so money wouldn't go flying out. But they didn't have any mesh on the inside of the vents. So money would suck up to the vent and then get stuck on a shelf. So the reason I'm saying this story is I eventually sold those two, and then on my next order of inflatable games, I messaged them and I was like, I'd like to order these again. I'd like to get 10 of them, because my two actually sold really good on eBay, like really fast. So I was like, well, I'm going to order more. That way I have a couple, and then I'm going to sell the other ones. But I think there was like 3 changes. I can only remember that one change off the top of my head because this was many years ago. But I was like, I'd like mesh on the inside and the outside, and I had a few design changes to the thing that I asked them to make. And then I got them, and they were exactly the way I wanted. They worked really good. Now, would you say I re-engineered their product? No, I wouldn't say I re-engineered their product. I made a few design changes, where I saw like a flaw or a shortcoming, and they changed it for me. So what level of re-engineering are we talking about with HK Audio and that SoundKing speaker? Did they just retune the DSP, the speaker tuning to make it sound more like an HK Audio speaker? Did they put new drivers in it? Is it a different amp? I mean, I find it hard to believe that they would just completely re-engineer the speaker. I could see them potentially tweaking the design here and there within the confines of what it is, because looks exactly the same. I question how much HK Audio really did to the speaker. Does it have the same drivers as the SoundKing? Does it have the same amp? Well, then what did you change, outside of maybe the system tuning? But I don't know. I've never used them side by side, so I can't really give a good review on what it's like and how it compares to the SoundKing. I'm just saying, once I started doing that research, I was kind of like, probably not for me. But I had thought about buying them because the price point was really good. I thought that could be like the speaker I send out to weddings with all my DJs. But and then I will say, just design-wise, one thing I'm not a huge fan of is, I don't like the little lip on the bottom of the sub-module that sticks out. I always think that's weird, and I don't really understand why they do that. The JBL Eon 1 had the exact same thing, and I can only think it's to step on to pull the top out if the top gets stuck on there. I don't know. I don't like that design-wise. And then the top column, I think it's got. Don't quote me on this because I'm thinking while I'm driving. I think it's like 6 3-inch speakers, and it's 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom, and then the compression drivers in the middle of the 3. And one thing I will give HK Audio credit for is, in their marketing stuff, they do specifically say, this is not an array. This is a point source system. It acts like a point source system. And yes, it does. So I do give them props for actually saying what it is. It's a column speaker that acts like a point source. And having 6 3-inch drivers is cool, but why don't you put all those next to each other? Why is the compression driver in the middle of them? Because you break the potential array that's there. And I'm not saying it would be a great array with 6 3-inch speakers, but it would be better than what's there now. But I don't know. I'm not a speaker design mastermind. I don't know why you'd do 3 compression driver and then 3 and have it in the middle. I mean, I'd put the compression driver on the top personally to get it up above the crowd as much as possible. Instead, you get a tall guy, the compression driver is a little on the low side, and plus you're breaking the chain of the 6 3-inch drivers. So that's the other design thing I'm not a fan of. I would love to do a review on the Polar 10. I could be completely wrong in my thinking. It could be an amazing speaker, but that was the hindrance on my part when I started figuring out, like, who's making it, who designed the thing, and hearing the SoundKing version at Infocom. Now, I signed up for Infocom, so I'll be going to the next one, which is this fall, And, you know, hopefully, you know, in the United States, Yorkville is the North American importer of, or the distributor of HK Audio. You know, hopefully they're there. Hopefully they've got the Polar 10. It would be interesting to go back and forth between, you know, the Yorkville HK Audio booth and the Sound King booth to see if the design looks any different. The downside about the HK Audio booth, though, last time, while they had speakers on display, they didn't plug anything in. So you didn't get to hear anything. Like, I saw the Element system there, and I touched it. I took it apart. I put it back together, and it seemed like really solid, nice build quality, but I never got to hear it, you know? And it's like, it's so tough to buy a speaker, especially that's that expensive, that you never heard before. But, you know, I feel like it's going to be the same way, as they'll probably have a Polar 10 there. They'll have a guy standing there talking about it. But I bet I will not get to hear it. And that's a bummer. But you never know. Maybe I will get to hear it. I would love to actually be able to do a decent review on it. It'd be really cool to use them at an event. See if they are as good as people hope they would be. But I'm a little on the skeptical side. But anyways, I'm driving back from a wedding I did last night. It actually went pretty good. I wish I would have taken some video. Long day, did the ceremony, cocktail hour, dinner, into the dance. And they were supposed to have like 300 people there. Well, by the time the dance rolled around, I bet there was maybe like 75. Like, it was... I thought I was going to be playing to an empty dance floor most of the night. You know, 75 people, especially at a wedding, people go around, they go outside, talking with relatives. Like, it's hard to keep the dance floor full 100% of the time. But I was pretty surprised. I think I kept it full about 75% of the time. When the wedding party would leave, you know, obviously people want to get drinks, so they'd leave, go to the bar, chit-chat for a while, come back. But especially the last hour and 45 minutes, I mean, they were on the dance floor solid. And I played a few extra songs for them. It was definitely a good dance to DJ. Good crowd, energetic. They were all just there wanting to have fun. I don't know how your guys' gigs are going, but this week and next week are like, seem to be super busy. I do some subcontracting work for Mobile Pro. I threw a video up a while back of one of the corporate events that I helped them out with. Helped them out with an event for 3 days up at the Alara Center. Not a huge fan of the corporate stuff where you gotta go out of town and stay in a hotel for 3 days. I prefer the in Fargo stuff where I get to go home each night. But still good to be busy. Getting back into the flow of actually doing events, which is nice. You know, the first gig back, trying to run a Midas M32, I'm kind of like, how do I set up a matrix again? I had to Google it. I had it right, but I felt like I was missing something. It's so weird when you don't use a mixer for a while, and then you're like, should I just set up a mix on a bus, or should I do a matrix? You know, I ended up having to do a bus mix. Basically, like, I'm mixing a band monitor, because essentially, you know, there's audio world, there's video world, and videos and PowerPoint presentations were going through video world, being routed to me in the M32, and then I would have to route the signal back to them for their recordings. You know, and what would be nice is if I could just set up a matrix mix of my main out, but I couldn't send the signal that they were sending to me back to them. So it kind of was a little bit of a pain in the butt. I ended up having to basically make a separate mix without the signal they were sending me and sending that to them back. but they were having some issues over there. I mean, I don't know. I'm a sound guy, so I don't know what all goes on in Video World, but they were having some sort of problem with one of their converter things that my signal was going through, and for some odd reason it was like clipping hard and just kept clipping, and I think one of their pieces of gear was breaking or something, so I ended up having to throw a thumb drive in quick, which really we should be doing that. I think with audio, a thumb drive should be in the M32 pretty much at all times recording. And then I actually think, and I might just do this to bring to these gigs when I help them out, because it always seems like there's some weird issues. I think I'm going to buy one of those Zoom recorders and just put a matrix mix out to the Zoom recorder and just record that for an added backup. Because it just seems like there's always some sort of problem. And then I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, so you're going to take part of the video or part of the audio from your thing because we didn't start recording on the USB right away. And then you're just going to have to edit these together. The quality is going to be totally different. I don't know. It just seems like a mess. But I am not in charge of putting the DVD together after the event, so I don't have to worry about it. And, I mean, I was doing my part. But it just seems awful confusing, the way things have to be. So I think just solidly recording a separate audio source and in post putting the good audio with the video would be better than trying to do it at the event. So on my next order, I think I'm going to get a Zoom recorder, and I think I'm going to create my Brian's. I'm working for Mobile Pro Bag that has, number one, a router, because while they supply the mixer, they never bring a router, and it's so annoying trying to do a podium mic where I'm running back and forth talking into it myself. It'd be easy to just have somebody go up there and talk into it for like 5 minutes while I adjust it and everything. But when everybody else is working on setting up other things, nobody else wants to help out the audio guy. They're like, what do we call you in for? Just go do it. So, anyways, I'm going to make a checklist of Brian's Mobile Pro Bag because I'm helping him out with 2 gigs next week during the week. It's kind of nice because all my events are on weekends, and it seems like all their corporate stuff is all during the week, so it kind of fills out my schedule nicely. Although, it does make it a little tricky when I'm trying to do rentals and people want to pick stuff up during the week, and I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm in Grand Forks for 3 days. I realize your rental is on Saturday, but I'm going to need you to pick it up on Tuesday. But got to do what you got to do. And I am one of the cheaper rental guys in town, so got to work around my schedule a little bit, and that is part of the reason why. Anyways, for the guy that asked about the HK Audio Polar 10, I hope this helped you out a little bit. Oh, one other thing I'm going to throw in here about the Polar 10. Hopefully you watched till the end of the video. There was another guy that disassembled one. At least he said he disassembled it. Now I'm wondering if he disassembled the Sound King version, but he did have one where he disassembled it, and essentially the wooden cabinet for the subwoofer is MDF. Now I haven't taken one apart, so I'm getting this off of like a Facebook comment image, so take it with a grain of salt. But MDF, which essentially is, sawdust that they compress into a board. And I don't know if you've ever seen that stuff get wet, but you can have a 1/2-inch MDF board become a 3-inch MDF board pretty fast. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but a 2-inch, it puffs. And when it puffs, it turns right back into sawdust. Now, granted, it's covered. You're not going to be dipping the thing in a bathtub. But over time, speakers get dings on them. The wood gets exposed. Maybe you're doing an outside gig. Maybe a bottom corner is, scuffed and the paint is gone and you're setting it on wet grass. I don't know. We're in the audio field. Anything is possible. When that starts to absorb water, it is going to puff and turn back into sawdust. So I'm not really a fan of any speaker that's made out of MDF. I would rather, like, I always say I prefer a wood cabinet. I do not prefer an MDF cabinet. I would rather have plastic. So that is where I draw the line. But don't quote me on that. That is just from a Facebook image, but he took it apart and showed all the components and took a picture of it. You might be able to find it out there. It's a comment on an HK Audio post about that speaker. And he basically said, this is made out of cheap crap. And yeah, if it's a Sound King speaker, it is a cheap Chinese speaker. So, anyways, that's my thoughts from the road. If you have any questions, comments, throw it down in the comment section. And, I might do some more of these video answers to comments. Because, half the time I reply to somebody's comment and I'm just typing out a paragraph, and I'm like, well, do you really want to read a novel? Or would you rather listen to me babble for 10 minutes? Maybe 15. I don't know where we're at. Oh, geez, we're at 20 minutes. All right. Have a good day. I'm going to get my way back to Fargo.